Have you ever stood in front of a scene and photographed it for it to only look flat later? Not wrong, just lifeless. That's not a camera problem, it's a depth problem. Because immersion is not found in landscape, it's built. Foreground pulls you in, midground carries you through, and the background gives the story weight. Miss one of these, and the photograph collapses. So let's rebuild depth the way it actually works. Depth is built, not found. Why wide scenes feel flat, and how to build immersion deliberately. If your photographs are sharp and expose well, but still forgettable, the missing ingredient is often depth and balance. Depth is not distance. Depth is layering with intention. This is the difference between looking at a landscape and being pulled into it. Foreground, midground, background. The backbone of immersive landscapes. Foreground is the entry. Midground is the journey. Background is the destination or context. Foreground must do a job. Texture like moss, sand ripples, ice patterns, shape like a rock pointing inward, framing like dark edges that hold attention. When a scene feels flat, don't change it in your camera first, change your height. Lower the camera and the foreground becomes larger. Depth increases. Raise the camera and the scene simplifies. Lower the camera 1 foot and shoot. Raise the camera 1 foot higher and shoot. Compare them later to train the eye. Balance and visual weight. Why tiny bright elements can overpower your subject. Adobe teaches balance as distribution of elements and the strategic use of negative space. And that's exactly what you're doing when you manage visual weight. Brightness is heavy, contrast is heavy, sharpness is heavy, color is heavy, and isolation is heavy. If something steals attention, reduce the weight. Reframe to remove it, wait for it to soften, darken it with exposure choices if needed. Shift the subject so the heavy element becomes supportive instead of dominant. Negative space and minimalism. Quiet is not empty. Quiet is control. Negative space is a tool for clarity and control. Photography teaches negative space and minimalism as composition tools because they isolate the subject and create impact. A lone tree in the fog, a person against a brick wall, a lone rock surrounded by water. Negative space works when the subject is strong enough to hold it. Place the subject deliberately, often on a third. Let the empty area become the emotional tone. Symmetry, patterns, and repetition. How to create rhythm and calm, and how to avoid boring repetition. Symmetry creates stability, and patterns create rhythm. Patterns need a hook and a point of emphasis. One brighter rock, one brighter tree, one person in the scene that stands out. Or use perspective so the pattern recedes into depth. Diagonals, triangles, and dynamic composition. Is geometry that creates tension and energy. Diagonals create motion. Triangles create stability with energy. This is where compositions start to feel cinematic. Photography highlights triangles and the golden ratio as composition options, beyond the rule of thirds. 3 elements forming a triangle, like rock, trees, and the mountain. Look for 3 diagonal edges of light and shadow. Look for 3 anchor points, and build a triangle that leads the eye around the frame. The golden triangle is a compositional guide that's built on the diagonal to divide the frame with supporting lines and create triangles and guide placement. And the scene has strong diagonals like shorelines, stair rails, mountain ridges. Try a golden triangle layout. Make the triangle into the main structural spine and place the subject where the lines converge. Filling the frame and cropping with intention. Specificity beats scenery. Filling the frame is not about being close, it's about being clear. After you find your first composition, make 2 more. One tighter by 20% and one wider by 20%. Later, choose which one tells the story better. This process trains your decision making. Breaking rules without breaking the photograph. The difference between intentional and sloppy. Rules are meant to be broken only after you understand the job that they were meant to do. Break thirds by centering for symmetry. Break leading lines and use them for tension. break negative space, and fill the frame for intensity. Photography encourages learning to break the rules when it's part of growth. A center subject feels powerful because it's a choice, not by default. The master checklist, a final system that works in studio and field. Name the subject in one sentence. Identify the visual hierarchy. Decide what's the loudest. Choose your structure. Thirds, diagonal, golden triangle, triangle. Build depth. Foreground, midground, and background. Balance the frame. Adjust visual weight. Contain the frame. Clean edges and corners. Simplify. Remove what's not supporting the story. Then shoot. And shoot the wider and tighter variations. If part 2 of composition helped in any way, like the video and subscribe. Follow along as I document the journey, step by deliberate step. The light doesn't wait, and neither should we.